Prince William wants revenge, and Meghan Markle's laugh in Paris might have just handed him the perfect excuse to get it. Word on the street is that the future king is done playing nice. Sources close to the palace claim William has been pushing to release a bombshell report that Buckingham Palace has kept sealed for years, a report that investigated allegations Meghan bullied royal staff during her time as a working royal, a report so damaging that the palace chose to bury it rather than let the public see what's inside. And now, after watching footage of Meghan laughing at a model who tripped on the Balenciaga runway in Paris, William's resolve has allegedly never been stronger. Let that sink in for a moment. The entire audience at Paris Fashion Week sat in uncomfortable silence when that model stumbled. Everyone except Meghan. She burst out laughing. Cameras caught it. The internet caught it. And according to palace insiders, Prince William caught it too, multiple times. He reportedly watched that clip over and over, and each viewing allegedly reinforced exactly why he believes the world needs to see what's in that hidden report. Because here's what nobody's talking about. William has been dropping hints lately about the kind of monarch he plans to be. Transparent, accountable, different from the old guard. Royal commentators are now speculating that different doesn't just mean modernizing the monarchy. It means releasing information that previous generations would have kept locked away forever. Information like the findings of an investigation into Meghan's alleged treatment of palace employees. Information that could destroy her reputation beyond repair. The timing of this is absolutely explosive. Just when Meghan is trying to rebrand herself as a lifestyle guru with her jam business and her polished public appearances, one laugh in Paris has allegedly reignited William's determination to expose what he believes is the truth. Sources suggest he sees a direct connection between that moment of cruelty on camera and what's allegedly documented in that sealed report. A pattern of behavior, a lack of empathy, a mean girl mentality that royal staff experienced firsthand, but the palace covered up to avoid scandal. Buckingham Palace officially confirmed that an investigation happened. They admitted a review was completed, but then they locked it all away, claiming they needed to protect the privacy of those involved. But who were they really protecting? The staffers who allegedly cried in bathrooms and fled their dream jobs? Or Meghan Markle, whose carefully crafted victim narrative would crumble if the truth came out? And now that laugh in Paris has allegedly reminded William exactly why silence isn't an option anymore. Because when he becomes king, he might finally have the power to unseal what the palace has been hiding. But what exactly are they hiding? Here's what we know for certain. In March of 2021, the Times of London dropped an absolute bombshell. They published allegations that Meghan Markle had bullied royal staff members during her time at Kensington Palace. The claims were serious. Multiple employees allegedly complained about her behavior. Some reportedly left their positions in tears. Others fled what they described as a toxic work environment. And the palace couldn't ignore it. So Buckingham Palace did something they rarely do. They announced they would investigate. They confirmed they were taking the allegations seriously and would be reviewing the circumstances surrounding the complaints. It was unprecedented. The palace doesn't usually comment on internal staffing matters, but these allegations were so explosive that they had no choice but to respond publicly. And then, silence. The investigation happened behind closed doors. Months went by. Royal watchers waited for the findings. The media speculated about what the review would uncover. Former palace insiders gave anonymous interviews suggesting the situation had been even worse than reported. But when the palace finally confirmed the investigation was complete, they refused to release a single detail. Not one testimony, not one finding, not one recommendation, nothing. The palace issued a brief statement saying the review had concluded and that they had implemented new policies and procedures as a result. But the actual contents of that report, sealed, locked away, hidden from public view forever, supposedly to protect the privacy of those who participated in the investigation. Let's be clear about what that means. The palace essentially confirmed that something happened. They acknowledged the review was necessary. They admitted changes needed to be made, but they won't tell anyone what they found or what those changes were designed to address. It's the ultimate cover-up disguised as discretion. Royal commentators have been tearing their hair out over this for years because the secrecy raises more questions than it answers. If Meghan was completely innocent, why not release the findings and clear her name? If the allegations were baseless, wouldn't transparency be the best way to shut down the rumors? But instead, the palace chose to bury everything, which only fueled speculation that what's in that report is so damaging that releasing it would create a scandal they couldn't contain. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Insiders claim the decision to keep the report sealed came from the very top. This wasn't some low-level HR decision. This was allegedly a strategic choice made to protect the monarchy's reputation at a time when Harry and Meghan were already causing chaos with their Oprah interview and their public attacks on the royal family. The thinking, according to sources, was that releasing damaging information about Meghan would only make the situation worse and give the Sussexes more ammunition to claim they were being targeted. But that decision to stay silent, it might have been a massive miscalculation. Because now, years later, Prince William is allegedly ready to correct what he sees as a terrible mistake. And the question everyone's asking is, what could possibly be in that report that's worth hiding? The answer might be more disturbing than anyone imagined. Before we talk about what might be in that sealed report, we need to understand what allegedly happened inside the palace walls when Meghan Markle was a working royal. Because the whispers from former staff members paint a picture that's absolutely chilling. According to the Times report that started this whole investigation, 2 senior members of staff claimed they were bullied by Meghan. But it wasn't just 2 people. Sources suggested that multiple employees had raised concerns about her behavior during her time at Kensington Palace. And the stories that leaked out were disturbing. Staff members allegedly experienced emotional cruelty that left them shaken and traumatized. One former aide reportedly told investigators that working for Meghan was like being subjected to emotional warfare. The demands were allegedly relentless. Emails would come through at all hours of the night, 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning. It didn't matter. Staff members were expected to respond immediately, no matter what time it was or what they were doing. And if they didn't, sources claim there would be consequences: anger, accusations of incompetence, public humiliation in front of other team members. But it gets worse. Insiders whisper that Meghan allegedly had a way of making staff feel worthless. One source claimed she would reduce grown adults to tears with her criticism. Another suggested that her standards were impossible to meet, and when staff inevitably fell short, she would allegedly unleash fury that was completely disproportionate to whatever mistake had been made. We're talking about people who had worked for the royal family for years, experienced professionals who knew how to handle high-pressure situations, allegedly breaking down because of the treatment they received. And here's what makes this even more devastating. These weren't just random employees who didn't get along with their boss. These were people who had dreamed of working for the royal family. They had dedicated their careers to serving the monarchy. And according to reports, several of them quit their positions rather than continue working under those conditions. That's not normal turnover. That's people fleeing a situation they found unbearable. One particularly damning allegation involved Meghan's treatment of staff during her pregnancy with Archie. Sources claim the behavior actually got worse during that time, not better. At a moment when you'd expect someone to be softer, more understanding, allegedly the opposite happened. The demands intensified, the criticism became harsher, and staff members who tried to flag concerns were allegedly dismissed or ignored. There were also whispers about the way Meghan allegedly spoke to people she considered beneath her in the hierarchy: royal protection officers, junior staff members, people who didn't have the power to push back. Insiders suggested she would allegedly treat them with contempt, as if their feelings and their dignity didn't matter because they were just there to serve her. And the most disturbing part, according to palace sources, this wasn't a secret. Senior royals allegedly knew what was happening. Human resources received complaints. People tried to intervene, but nothing changed until the Times published their bombshell investigation and forced the palace's hand. Now, all of that is supposedly documented in a report that nobody's allowed to see. But that might be about to change. Fast forward to Paris Fashion Week, 2025. Meghan Markle is sitting front row at the Balenciaga show. She's there to be photographed, to be seen, to remind the world that she's still relevant in the elite circles of fashion and celebrity. The cameras are rolling, the show is underway, and then a model trips. She stumbles right there on the runway in front of everyone. The reaction from the audience is immediate. Silence. That uncomfortable collective holding of breath that happens when someone falls in public. It's instinctive. It's human nature to feel empathy in that moment, to cringe with embarrassment for the person who just had a humiliating accident in front of hundreds of people. Everyone in that room felt it, the awkwardness, the secondhand embarrassment. Everyone except Meghan Markle. She laughed, not a quiet, nervous giggle that might have slipped out accidentally. A full laugh, loud enough to be heard, visible enough to be caught on camera. And here's the part that's got everyone talking. She was reportedly the only person in that entire audience who had that reaction. Look at the footage. Everyone else is stone-faced, concerned, uncomfortable. But Meghan, she's amused. Now, royal commentators didn't waste any time connecting the dots. Kinsey Schofield, a celebrity and royal expert, was asked directly on Australian television whether Meghan Markle is a mean girl, and her response was explosive. She pointed out that Buckingham Palace actually knows the answer to that question, because they investigated it. They have the receipts, they have the testimonies, they have the findings, but they've kept it all sealed away to protect privacy. Whose privacy, though? That's the question nobody at the palace seems willing to answer. And here's where the Paris incident becomes so much more significant than just a bad moment caught on camera. Sources close to Prince William claim he watched that footage multiple times, not because he was looking for a reason to attack Meghan, but because allegedly, it confirmed everything he's believed about her character for years. that laugh wasn't just a momentary lapse in judgment. According to insiders, William sees it as a window into who Meghan really is when she thinks nobody's watching closely enough to judge her. The buzz in royal circles is that William showed the clip to trusted advisors and reportedly said it was the perfect example of why the sealed report needs to be released. Because if Meghan can laugh at someone else's humiliation in public, in front of cameras, what was she allegedly doing behind closed doors to staff members who had no power to defend themselves? What did those palace employees experience when there were no photographers around to capture her behavior? One palace insider allegedly whispered to a UK publication that the Paris moment was William's light bulb. It wasn't about the laugh itself, it was about what the laugh represented. A lack of empathy, a mean-spirited streak, a pattern of behavior that allegedly matches exactly what's documented in that hidden report. And suddenly, William's alleged determination to release those findings doesn't seem like revenge anymore. It seems like accountability. The Paris laugh isn't happening in a vacuum, and that's what makes it so damaging for Meghan Markle. Because when you start looking at her recent public appearances and the mistakes she keeps making, a pattern emerges, one that allegedly mirrors exactly what palace staff experienced behind closed doors. Take the jam debacle. Meghan relaunched her lifestyle brand with great fanfare, positioning herself as this aspirational domestic goddess who knows all about homemaking and artisanal living. She posted photos of herself making jam, apricot preserves, orange marmalade. The whole aesthetic was carefully curated to show her as hands-on, authentic, someone who actually knows what she's doing in the kitchen. Except she was holding the canning tongs upside down. The equipment you use to safely place hot jars into boiling water without burning yourself, she had them backwards. Completely wrong, and the internet noticed immediately. Royal commentator Kinsey Schofield nailed it when she said it's the perfect metaphor for brand Meghan. Optics matter, and when you're selling a product but look like you don't even know how to use the equipment, it's tough to convince people you're the expert. It's giving grifter energy, not lifestyle guru. But here's the part that's even more revealing. Why didn't anyone on her team catch that mistake before the photo went public? Sources suggest it's because her staff either don't care enough to correct her, or they're too afraid to speak up. And doesn't that sound familiar? Allegedly the same dynamic that played out at Kensington Palace. A work environment where people are either too intimidated to point out problems, or they've given up trying because their input gets dismissed anyway. Then there's the broader issue of tone deafness. Meghan and Harry have spent years complaining about their struggles, their pain, their victimhood, and yet they're living in a multi-million-dollar mansion in Montecito. They've signed massive deals with Netflix and Spotify. They lecture the world about compassion and equality while flying private jets and attending exclusive events. The disconnect between what they say and how they live is staggering. And every time Meghan makes one of these public missteps, whether it's the upside-down tongs or laughing at someone's fall, or any of the countless other tone-deaf moments, it reinforces what palace insiders have allegedly been saying for years, that there's a gap between the image she presents and the reality of who she is, that the carefully managed public persona doesn't match the person staff members allegedly encountered behind closed doors. Royal experts are now pointing out that these aren't isolated incidents, they're a pattern. A consistent pattern of behavior that suggests someone who either doesn't care about how her actions affect others or genuinely doesn't understand why people keep reacting negatively to her. And when you combine that pattern with what's allegedly in the sealed bullying report, the picture becomes even clearer. Sources close to Prince William claim this is exactly why he believes the report needs to be released, because the public keeps seeing glimpses of behavior that allegedly matches what palace staff experienced, and if the findings were made public, it would validate everything people have suspected but couldn't prove. But William's determination to expose the truth isn't just about Meghan, it's personal. For Prince William, this isn't just about accountability or transparency or modernizing the monarchy. This is deeply, painfully personal, and sources close to the future king suggest that the Paris incident ripped open wounds that never fully healed. Let's start with Kate. According to multiple reports, the Princess of Wales was allegedly brought to tears over Meghan's treatment of palace staff. Kate reportedly witnessed some of the behavior firsthand. She heard the complaints. She saw the emotional toll it was taking on people who worked for the royal household, and insiders claim she tried to address it quietly, behind the scenes the way royals typically handle internal conflicts, but nothing changed. William allegedly watched his wife struggle with the situation. He saw her upset. He heard her concerns about the staff members who were suffering, and according to sources, he felt powerless to protect the people who worked for his family, because the palace was more concerned about avoiding scandal than addressing the allegations. That feeling of helplessness, it's reportedly something William has never forgiven himself for, but it goes deeper than just the staff situation. William allegedly believes that Meghan's behavior caused irreparable damage to the monarchy's reputation. At a time when the royal family was trying to modernize and connect with younger generations, the bullying allegations became a massive distraction. They fed into every negative narrative about the royals being out of touch, cruel, elitist, and William was supposedly furious that one person could create so much chaos in such a short amount of time. Then there's Harry, the brother William grew up with, the brother he protected after their mother died, the brother he thought would always have his back. Harry chose Meghan over his family. He believed her version of events over the concerns raised by palace staff. He defended her publicly and attacked the royals who tried to hold her accountable, and William allegedly sees that as the ultimate betrayal. Royal insiders whisper that William views the sealed report as the key to everything. If it were released, if the findings were made public, it would validate the concerns he and Kate raised years ago. It would prove that the palace wasn't targeting Meghan out of racism or jealousy or any of the other accusations she's made. It would show that there were legitimate reasons for the tension, that staff members had real grievances, that the complaints weren't fabricated or exaggerated. And now, after seeing Meghan laugh at someone's misfortune in Paris, after watching her continue to play the victim while allegedly showing cruelty in public, William's resolve has supposedly hardened. Sources claim he's done being silent. He's done protecting someone who he believes showed no mercy to the people who worked for his family. When he becomes king, the rules change, and Meghan might finally face consequences she's avoided for years. The relationship between William and Harry isn't just strained, it's obliterated, and Meghan sits at the center of that destruction like a bomb that went off and keeps sending out shockwaves years later. Let's recap the damage. First came the Oprah interview. Harry and Meghan sat down with one of the most powerful media figures in the world and lobbed grenades at the royal family. They claimed someone in the family made racist comments about Archie's skin color. They suggested Kate made Meghan cry over flower girl dresses, flipping a story that insiders claim happened the opposite way. They painted the royals as cold, uncaring, and trapped in an outdated institution that refused to protect Meghan's mental health. The interview was devastating. It aired in over 70 countries. Millions of people watched Harry and Meghan position themselves as victims escaping a toxic family. And William, he had to sit there and take it. He couldn't defend himself without looking petty. He couldn't share his side without violating the royal code of never complaining, never explaining. So he stayed silent while his reputation got shredded on global television. Then came the Netflix docuseries. 6 episodes of Harry and Meghan rehashing their grievances, sharing private moments, and once again painting the royal family as villains. More accusations, more implications, more drama designed to keep the Sussexes relevant and sympathetic while making William and the rest of the royals look heartless. And if that wasn't enough, Harry released Spare, a memoir that spilled family secrets, described physical altercations with William, and portrayed his brother as hot-tempered and unsympathetic. Harry didn't just burn bridges with that book. He incinerated them and scattered the ashes. Insiders close to William claim he's reached a point of no return. There's no reconciliation possible after the level of public betrayal Harry has committed, and William allegedly blames Meghan for all of it. Sources suggest he believes she isolated Harry from his family, manipulated him into seeing the royals as enemies, and orchestrated the entire media campaign to serve her own interests. But here's what's eating at William. According to Palace whispers, Harry and Meghan have controlled the narrative for years. They've positioned themselves as the wronged parties. They've built a brand around being victims of institutional cruelty, and the palace has stayed mostly silent, which allowed that narrative to take root in public consciousness. William allegedly believes the sealed bullying report is the truth bomb that could finally shift the narrative. It would show that the Sussexes weren't innocent victims. It would prove that there were legitimate reasons for the tension between Meghan and the palace. It would expose what William sees as calculated manipulation disguised as vulnerability. And every day that report stays sealed, the lies continue unchallenged. So what exactly is Buckingham Palace hiding? What's in that report that's so explosive they've kept it locked away for years? The speculation has been running wild, and based on what insiders have leaked over time, the contents could be absolutely devastating for Meghan Markle. First, there are allegedly witness testimonies from multiple palace staff members, not just 1 or 2 disgruntled employees who didn't get along with their boss. We're talking about detailed accounts from experienced professionals who worked at the highest levels of the royal household. These testimonies supposedly describe specific incidents, specific dates, specific examples of behavior that cross the line from demanding into abusive. Sources suggest the report includes documentation of the midnight emails, screenshots, timestamps, evidence of the relentless communication that staff members were expected to respond to at all hours. And allegedly, it's not just the timing that's damaging, it's the tone. Insiders whisper that some of those emails contained language that was demeaning, condescending, and designed to humiliate rather than simply convey instructions. Then there's the possibility of recorded complaints. Human Resources doesn't just take verbal reports and file them away. They document everything, which means there could be official complaint forms, written statements from staff members detailing what they experienced, and potentially even recordings of meetings where these issues were discussed. All of that would be part of the investigation file. But here's where it gets even more serious. Royal experts speculate that the report might include psychological assessments of the work environment. When the palace hired an external law firm to conduct the investigation, they weren't messing around. That kind of review typically includes expert analysis of whether the workplace was toxic, whether the behavior constituted bullying under UK employment law, and what the long-term impact was on the employees involved. There's also speculation about exit interviews. When senior staff members quit their dream jobs working for the royal family after just months with Meghan, they didn't leave without explanation. Exit interviews are standard procedure, and those conversations would have been documented. Sources suggest some of those departing employees were very candid about why they were leaving and what they experienced. And then there's the nuclear option. Some insiders have whispered that there might be email exchanges or text messages between Meghan and staff members that are so damning, so clearly cruel, that their release would end any debate about whether the allegations have merit, hard evidence that can't be spun or explained away. The palace reviewed all of this. They assessed it, they drew conclusions, and then they decided the public could never see it. Which raises the obvious question: if the findings exonerated Meghan, why not release them and clear her name? The silence speaks volumes, and Meghan knows it, which is why she's terrified of what happens when William becomes king. Meghan Markle knows the walls are closing in, and her response? Launch one of the most aggressive rebranding campaigns celebrity culture has ever seen. But insiders suggest no amount of PR spin can save her if that report ever sees daylight. Let's look at what she's been doing. The lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, the jam, the marmalade, the Netflix cooking show. It's all part of a calculated effort to transform her image from controversial royal outcast into aspirational domestic goddess. She's trying to become the next Gwyneth Paltrow, the next Martha Stewart, someone who can sell products and influence based on taste and lifestyle rather than royal drama. But the rebrand is already struggling. The jam launched to mockery. The upside-down tongs became a meme, and sources in the entertainment industry suggest that Hollywood insiders aren't buying what Meghan's selling. They've seen too many false starts, too many projects that get announced with great fanfare and then quietly fizzle out. The Spotify deal that ended in disaster, the Netflix content that underperformed, the children's book that barely made a ripple. And here's what's really telling. Meghan has been working overtime to cultivate friendly media relationships, puff pieces in certain outlets, carefully staged photo opportunities, strategic leaks to sympathetic journalists. It's a full-court press designed to control the narrative and keep her image polished. But the Paris laugh cut through all of that manufactured goodwill in an instant. One genuine, unguarded moment revealed something her PR team can't spin away. Sources close to the situation claim Meghan is genuinely terrified about the possibility of William releasing the bullying report, and she should be, because everything she's built since leaving the royal family is predicated on her being the victim, the woman who was mistreated by a racist institution, the outsider who couldn't conform to outdated rules, the modern princess who got crushed by an archaic system. But if that report comes out and validates the allegations, the entire narrative collapses. She's no longer the victim, she's the villain. And in today's culture where brands are built on authenticity and values, being exposed as someone who allegedly bullied staff members would be fatal to everything she's trying to build. Her team knows it too. Insiders whisper that Meghan's lawyers have been exploring whether there's any legal avenue to prevent the report's release. Could they claim invasion of privacy? Could they argue that releasing decades-old allegations constitutes harassment? Royal experts suggest there's probably nothing they can do if William decides to unseal the findings once he's king. The monarchy has protections and privileges that override typical privacy concerns. So Meghan's stuck playing defense, trying to rebuild her image while knowing that everything could crumble the moment William takes the throne. The coronation of King William will mark more than just a change in leadership. It could trigger the most explosive royal scandal in modern history, and Meghan Markle might finally face accountability she's evaded for years. Here's the reality. As Prince of Wales, William has limited power to override decisions made by his father and the palace establishment. King Charles has made it clear he wants to avoid further drama with Harry and Meghan. He's chosen a path of quiet distance rather than public confrontation. The sealed report stays sealed because Charles doesn't want to reignite the conflict and give the Sussexes more ammunition for their victim narrative. But when William becomes king, everything changes. He'll have the authority to make decisions about what information gets released and what stays hidden. He won't need permission from palace officials or advisors who prioritize avoiding scandal over revealing truth. The choice will be his alone, and sources close to William suggest he's been planning for that moment for years. Royal commentators are already speculating about what the fallout would look like if William actually does it. Releasing the report would dominate news cycles for months. Every detail would be dissected. Every testimony would be analyzed. Meghan would be forced to respond, and her response would either validate the findings or make her look defensive and dishonest. But there's a massive risk for William too. Some royal experts warn that releasing the report could backfire spectacularly. It might make the monarchy look petty and vindictive. It could be seen as punching down at a woman who no longer has the protection of royal status. and it would definitely reignite the transatlantic divide, with American audiences potentially siding with Meghan while British audiences support William. There's also the Harry factor. Releasing damaging information about Meghan would obliterate any remaining possibility of reconciliation with his brother. Harry has defended Meghan fiercely for years. He's built his entire post-royal identity around protecting her from the institution he believes failed them both. If William exposes her alleged behavior in an official report, Harry would see it as the ultimate betrayal. The rift would become permanent and irreparable. Yet insiders claim William has made peace with all of those risks. He allegedly believes that protecting the monarchy's integrity requires telling the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. He's watched Meghan and Harry profit from their victimhood narrative for years. He's seen them attack his family repeatedly while the palace stayed silent, and sources suggest he's reached a point where he thinks silence has done more damage than transparency ever could. The Paris incident allegedly crystallized everything for him. That laugh wasn't just a bad moment. It was confirmation that the person described in that sealed report is the real Meghan. And William reportedly believes the public deserves to know what palace staff endured so they can make informed judgments about who the Sussexes really are. So the question isn't whether William wants to release the report anymore. The question is whether he'll actually have the courage to pull the trigger when the crown is finally on his head, and whether Meghan can survive the fallout if he does. What do you think? Will William really release the report once he becomes king, or will he choose peace over truth? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed because the next video is dropping soon, and you won't believe what we've uncovered next. The royal drama is far from over, and we're bringing you every explosive detail as it unfolds.